So we're coupling this conference with the IVU, the International Vegetarian Union, and this session in particular is an opportunity for the many great people we have from many different countries to share some best practices for spreading the word about plant-based diets. I apologize that we don't have more time, and that we don't have perhaps two separate panels. We have so many people, but we do have 9 panelists, and so we'll do what we can to use the time as efficiently as possible. I am distributing a handout which has a short position statement from each of the 9 panelists. And somebody's missing, by the way. Oh, okay, Sebastian. 9 panelists plus me. And I apologize, but Jogerson's name did not appear here, so he's also on the panel. So everybody's position statement except Jogersson's appears here, and you can contact Jogerson immediately afterwards to get his contact details if you want some information from him. What I'd like us to get, I never introduced myself. My name is Dilip Barman. I'm North American Regional Coordinator for the International Vegetarian Union, and I'm honored to be here and delighted to be able to spend the next little bit of time with you. We may not have enough handouts for everybody. If we run out of handouts, then feel free to contact me. My email address is Barman, my last name, B-A-R-M-A-N. Looks like we do have enough handouts, at jhu.edu. And I'll repeat that at the end, and I'll be glad to send you the soft copy. We're here till 6:30, and we have a late start. But I think we need to end at 6:30 or pretty close to that because of dinner and other things. So I'd like to be responsible and end on time, even if we didn't start on time. And that's one of my roles, is to keep the panel going. So the plan I have is I'm going to give each of the panelists 7 minutes to talk about, to introduce themselves, tell you what their name is and where they're from and what's their organization. I think everybody here is representing an organization. And then what's worked for them? Has it been some food fairs? Has it been some unique form of activism, some outreach, working through government agencies, working through schools? Has it been through food, through lectures? So, one thing I'm convinced about is at the end of this panel, every one of us will have many gems, many jewels to take home to then spread the word to your own communities. And, one thing that a conference like the IVU conference allows us to do is to bring many voices. When we have America's a large country, and we do have a lot of diversity. But look at the diversity we have here when we have people from all over the world. So, every one of these folks on the panel deserves the whole hour and a half. Every one of them could fill, effectively, the whole hour and a half and use it 2 days. But they get 7 minutes. And what I'm going to do is at the end of the 7 times 9, 63 minutes, we'll do a time check. We should be pretty close to 6. My proposed schedule calls for a break. I'll kind of do a vibes taking. Maybe we'll take a 5-minute break to go to the bathroom, or maybe not, because the remaining half hour is for discussion. And so what I'd like to ask is, just in the interest of time, let's give each of the panelists their full 7 minutes. Let's not ask any questions at this point. And then I will make a decision whether we're taking a break or not, and then we'll start entertaining questions. So I will take the questions, and then I will apportion it to the panel. Any questions on the format or what we're doing or why we're here? Or okay? Thanks for choosing our session, too. I think we'll get a lot out of it. So with that, and a few of us have presentations, so Sebastian, I guess, is going to kind of run that. So let's go ahead. We're doing it in alphabetical order, so Jasmijn. Oh, of course, sorry. The mic is for the videotape, not for you, unfortunately.
Thank you very much. My name is Jasmijn de Bo. I'm the Chief Executive of the Vegan Society in the UK. This is the original vegan society, founded by Donald Watson in 1944, who coined the term vegan and veganism. Now, last night we were told veganism goes back 6,000 years. That may well be true. There were always forward thinkers. But actually, Donald Watson really made it mainstream. He brought it to the public. He inspired other organizations like the American Vegan Society and other organizations around the world. I will tell a little bit more about the society and what we do tonight at 7:45. So I hope you'll be there to listen to my talk in full. But today, I'm just going to give you a very brief introduction about what we're doing. The Vegan Society has two departments. One is the Business Development Department and one is the Information Department. And this is about to change. This is going to be the Department of Communications, Public Policy and Research. So we're actually changing the emphasis from the individual education level towards engaging more with caterers, manufacturers, government, hospitals, care homes, etc. So we don't want to say that the individual is no longer important. Of course it is important, but we've got the internet. We used to provide lots and lots of leaflets. I've got some leaflets here. Vegan Pledge, Right to Life and Freedom, Eggs and Dairy, Vegan for the Animals, recipe leaflets and so on. Great, but more and more people find information about veganism online. Through individuals who have blogs, recipe sites, other organizations. So we're actually going to change our emphasis a little bit. However, we are still supporting existing vegans through our magazine, The Vegan. We produce other materials such as Making the Connection that was produced in 2010. And I'm not going to actually tell you too much about it. I encourage you to watch it online. It's free to watch on YouTube, on our website. But also I've got about 10 or so copies here. So if you want the copies, 30 minutes, connecting all the different topics of animal rights, health, ethics, environment, etc. So you can watch this at your own leisure. We've got publications like the Vegan Passport, and again this is important because we all travel and struggle in other countries, so this will help people to basically make their views known. And also making veganism easy and mainstream means that people need to know the basics about health and nutrition. We've heard lots of talks around health and nutrition here, so again I'm not going to tell you much in detail. This is a really good book developed by Stephen Walsh, 2003. Plant-based nutrition and health, and I encourage you again to read this. It's very useful, basic knowledge about your health. For people with families, we've got Feeding Your Vegan Infant with Confidence. Again, it's important because people think that you may not be able to be vegan on if you're actually pregnant or breastfeeding, but it's possible. You just need to take the right steps. So all of these publications help the individual to become vegan, to stay vegan. We used to get a lot of requests and information through email, phone calls, but nowadays we've got Facebook and we've got nearly 100,000 likes on Facebook, which is a tremendous amount. And I must say actually that more than half of them are here from the US, and that's why I'm here. I think we need to actually reconnect the Vegan Society in the UK with the people who we're engaging with on Facebook, as well as getting more members, more supporters to join us to help us in our mission to make veganism mainstream. One of the other things is Veg One, produced by the Business Development Department. It's a multivitamin tablet which includes vitamin B12, vitamin D, folic acid, iodine, selenium and vitamin B6. And this is really important because we're not saying you have to take it. We're just saying if you're not quite sure about your supplementation of vitamin B12 in your diet, do take this. It's really, really important. I'm not going to repeat what Sebastian's already mentioned in his talk about vitamin B12. There are different ways of taking this, and it's a very low-cost option. This only costs $5.49 in the UK, and I think it's about $8.80, 90 tablets, so it lasts 3 months. It's really cheap. We are a charity, after all. We don't need to make lots of money, but we do need to make some money. We need to keep our information and public policy programs going. So one of our main success stories is the Vegan Pledge, and again, we've got more than 40% of people taking the Vegan Pledge from the US and Canada. So it's again very important to let you know what this is. I'm going to say a little bit more in my talk tonight, but it's a program where you can choose a week or 2 weeks or a month of being a vegan, being supported by a mentor if you choose to do so. And then we evaluate before and after how you did and whether you're going to sustain. And the vast majority of people who return the post-pledge questionnaire actually decide to stay vegan or mostly vegan, about 70 or 80%. And the important thing about that is people feel supported. They actually have someone to go to with questions. And they can try it. You know, some people think it's very scary to go vegan all the way immediately. But if you can try it for a week or a month, and it's not so difficult. You can find out that it's easy to do. And that's what we want to get across, that it's easy and mainstream. So I've had really rushed through the quick presentation. But what we would like to do more is, like I said, get more involved in education, catering colleges. Again, I think Sebastian is going to talk more about what they're doing. We're going to do that more as well. Next year we have a catering show where we're going to sponsor a class of a cooking demonstration. And students get really excited about that, the challenge of cooking a vegan cold or main dish, and then being able to show off their skills and learn about veganism in the process. So we want to do a lot more of that kind of stuff. That's about it for now. I'm going to pass on to the next person to keep to time. Thank you.
Where do I hold this? Am I holding the mic okay?
Teaching how to cook.
Yes. I'm Freya Densha, American Vegan Society. This is our magazine, American Vegan, which also appears online. And one of the useful things that the magazine does is publicize activities, whether they're our activities or activities by other people in other parts of the country, because we find that people have a good idea, a good program, and they'll be doing it in one location. And if we can tell people in other places about it, we can inspire action that way. The two things that I'm going to talk about to you today are things that came about by accident, not by thinking, not by planning, but by a request from some other source. The first one is there's a local after-school program, and I was invited to go and help teach the kids and help them with their homework, which was helping them with their math and their reading. You can just go through pictures and let them go on, okay? And then Vasanta Molina, whom some of you have heard because she's a registered dietitian and done some presentations at this conference, was coming to our area. She asked if I'd like her to speak anywhere. And I said, yes, but this time would you like to speak to some children who have no idea about vegetarianism and no idea about health? She gave an excellent presentation on the parts of plants we eat and talked about eating roots, carrots, flowers, broccoli, stalks, asparagus, and so on. And we prepared a snack for them, hummus dip with raw vegetables and crackers. And we had fresh figs and persimmons, too. Children enjoyed the evening very much. They really got into answering the questions. And the next week, the lady who usually does the snacks, and their snacks are usually grilled cheese sandwiches, hot dogs, and terrible little cake things, said, I'm wondering how we can get the kids to have better snacks. So I said, well, how would it be if we made a soup? Each child tells us a vegetable they like, and we'll make a vegetable soup. She thought that was a good idea. We told the children, next week we're going to make soup. What vegetables do you like? They called out, carrots and peas and onions. And then one kid said chicken, and another kid said, that's not a vegetable. So the next week we made our soup. Each kid participated by washing and chopping up a vegetable and putting it in the pot. And we served it with pita bread and peanut butter. And the kids just loved the soup. Their parents came to pick them up. They couldn't believe their kids were eating all these vegetables. And as a consequence, I've been working on their snacks, sometimes weekly, sometimes not so often. But they're very proud of the program, and it's actually a source of funding for them to say that they're giving this nutrition education. It's also developed into the idea of a cookbook for children that my daughter has been working on with me. I had developed most of the recipes at the after-school program. She worked with children individually and took photos. The book's due out in November. You can buy it, pre-order it on Amazon, and we hope a lot of you will do that. So,
What's the name
It's apples, bean dip, and carrot cake. And I would tell you, all the children that we've worked with are not vegetarian, they're not vegan, but they really enjoyed the experience. And we're really not saying that this is a vegan cookbook, because we hope it goes out to the general public. Happens to be published by American Vegan Society. Okay, 3 minutes, time to switch to my next topic, which is vegan fine dining. Between where American Vegan Society headquarters is and Atlantic City, in Mays Landing, is Atlantic Cape Community College, where they have an Academy of Culinary Arts. I went down there one day. I thought maybe I can find some students who would like to volunteer to help us cater our annual vegan garden party. And didn't seem as though that was actually going to work out, because the lady in the office said, oh, they don't volunteer for anything, they've got to be paid. So I checked out their restaurant, thought maybe I could see what they might have for lunch there. I was asked if I had a reservation. No, I didn't have a reservation, so I talked to them about it. I discovered that they do offer groups dinners on Monday and Tuesday evenings. So I asked whether they could do a vegan dinner. And we arranged for them to provide a vegan dinner for us 3 weeks hence, which didn't give us much time for publicity. So, of course, we emailed frantically and telephoned. And I was anxious that we would get the minimum number required of 20 people on a Tuesday night in the middle of, it wasn't Philadelphia, and who's heard of Mays Landing? But pretty soon we had a full house of 65 people plus a waiting list. And, excuse me, could we get the other one?
The file doesn't open up. I don't know.
It's not opening?
I tried it twice.
Oh, okay. Well, the students prepare and serve the meal, which is a gourmet, very elegant meal. And, yes, and they've been delighted to do it and very friendly. They get graded on how well they do it. The press department of the college now calls me and asks if they can put out a press release. And this is coming from them. They are boasting about their culinary institute, that they prepare local and organic and are the venue of choice for the American Vegan Society. And that this gets in the Atlantic City Press and related newspapers all around. So it's very good.
Thank you. Priscilla Farrell.
Thank you. Doesn't matter where I stand. I can stand right here. I don't want to leave here. I'm Priscilla Farrell, president of an international animal advocacy group called Friends of Animals. And I've got two stories relating to Africa that I wanted to tell you about because I thought it provided the opposite experience from what some relief groups are pressing, and that's the idea that we should push goat farming into Africa as a way to relieve hunger and solve some kind of crisis. And of course, I believe the opposite is true. More than a decade ago, I was in Kenya, representing an NGO group working against the ivory trade. So we had drafted a proposal to stop the trade. We had rallied, a dozen or more African nations to, of course, back the proposal, because without them, the world doesn't want to listen to you. And one evening, I invited delegates from, I don't know, maybe 18 different nations to a dinner. And of course, the dinner was going to be vegan. And I figured what I like best is a buffet, so that people can actually see the food and serve themselves and have this experience and having things come out on a plate. So I worked with the kitchen at the hotel in Nairobi, and I said, of course, it had to be vegan, which means don't put this, that, or that in it, And if you go to Africa, and I've traveled extensively in East Africa, West Africa, and South Africa, they have an abundance of vegetables. I mean, it just isn't true that you can't find this. Of course you can. They're everywhere. There are ground nuts, there's cabbage and carrots and pumpkin and loads of rice and potatoes. And I found everything very accessible. But that evening, we had a beautiful spread, and I'm looking around at the various tables, and the individuals from Mali were there, and they had like this sourpuss face on. And everybody's sitting around a round table looking miserable. And of course, these people were very impoverished. And I knew a couple of them through our work. And I asked our biologist, who was fluent in French, to go over and find out what was wrong with the Malians. And he came back and he said, there's no meat. They think they've been offended. Now, not that they ate meat much in their country, but they have this idea that if a Western nation is hosting something, and we're so full of thinking that meat is status, and we don't offer that status to them, it's a slight. So the biologist said to them, no, 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 we're friends of animals. We don't eat our friends. And with that, the Malians broke out into this hurrah. You know, they finally got it. Oh, this is a compliment. This food is a compliment. And of course, they enjoyed it, and it was a great event. But I mean, in that case, there was a philosophical problem in the way. It wasn't a problem of food or access. We had recipes, we had something to talk to the chefs about, but they are very good chefs, you know. The next thing, in 2005, Lee Hall and I authored our first vegan cookbook, Dining with Friends, The Art of North American Vegan Cuisine. And it didn't just span decades, it really spanned generations. My great Aunt Grace's ginger cookie recipe is in this book. So we looked for publications to review the book, and Animal People, which is an international newspaper, said, give it to us. We can't cook, but we'll find someone who can. And they found a gourmet chef in Cape Town, South Africa, who said, oh, I want to work with this book, but the panel I'll assemble will have 6 very conservative meat eaters. And I thought, oh, this is going to be a test. So over a span of 3 hours, he prepared a 6-course dinner entirely from the cookbook. I'm just going to give you an idea of the sounds of what they were eating. Vegetable bisque, toast cups with cilantro pesto, Italian vegetable and potato stew, stuffed peppers with tofu and vegetables. Then the desserts were blackberry and raspberry flummery, apple cinnamon crisp, and he provided vegan butter for the bread. And the reviews exceeded 8 out of 10. And the people that were all, you know, did a scoring card said that they not only thought that anybody that had any doubt that you had to have meat or dairy in food should try these recipes and eat this way, that they thought everybody should eat that way. So it was a triumph of sorts, I think, not only to see the review, but to see that this cuisine, if you make the recipes accessible, if you let the food itself be the celebration, I mean, I really do think everybody has to learn how to cook. You have to learn how to cook vegetables. If you aren't going to learn how to cook them and show how that is done to other people, how can we expect young generations of people to want to have a vegetable or fruit or anything else? Thank you.
My name is Ornelas, and I am the founder and the director of the Food Empowerment Project. We are a vegan food justice organization. We work on promoting veganism, advocating for farm workers, working on access to healthy foods in communities of color and low-income communities, and we're trying to get people not to buy chocolate that comes from the slave trade in Africa. So I was asked today to speak a bit on 3 different ways that we see in advocating for veganism and what we found to be effective. And for us, a big part of it is access to healthy foods in communities of color and low-income communities. For those of you who are from the San Francisco area, Bayview Hunters Point is one of the poorest areas in San Francisco, predominantly African American. Now, almost all of the diseases in that area are all food related. When I went to speak at a high school there, all the kids who were there, I asked them, how many people in your family suffer from diabetes, or are you suffering from diabetes? And over half of everybody in the room raised their hand. We talked about these issues, all of veganism and all the other issues we work on, and afterwards we served veggie burgers, vegan veganays, everything for these kids. They'd never heard of a veggie burger before, ever. They could not, they were like very tentative. You know, I admit we bought them like potato chips because I was like, hey, they're vegan, you know, so you don't just have to. But it was so interesting to watch these kids who'd never even heard of a veggie burger before eat them. And the first kid who tried one with the veganays and everything, I was like, what do you think? And he said, it's interesting. By the third one he ate, I figured he liked them. I was like, I think we're beyond interesting here. So I've spoken on this issue when I'm asked to speak in countries like New Zealand and Canada when I spoke. This is an international issue. We're talking about people of color, no matter if you're the indigenous people in Canada, you're the Maoris in New Zealand, or you are African Americans or Chicanos who live in the United States. It's the people of color who are denied access to healthy foods. These are also the same people who are predominantly lactose intolerant. So we did a study in Santa Clara County, which is known as the Silicon Valley, very wealthy area, compared the high-income areas and the low-income areas on availability of healthy foods. We did fresh fruits, vegetables, canned and frozen. We also did meat and dairy alternatives. And as an ethical organization, we know in our report that we put, we acknowledge that eating meat isn't good for your health, but we feel more strongly about it because of the animals. Just like we feel strongly about organic is better for your health, but we do it for the farm workers. Same thing with dairy products. It's not good for the animals, but there's also this other thing about it. When we did our finalized and came out with our report, what we found, of course, is that the people who need these dairy alternatives don't have these alternatives. We're talking about dairy alternatives not being available in these markets where predominantly people of color, who are some of which 95% lactose intolerant, don't have access to it. It's a form of what we call environmental racism, where portions of the population are excluded from foods that are actually better for their health. Now, we're doing it for ethical reasons, and what we've done, we put out our report, which is available on our website. We've done focus groups. We did 3 focus groups in San Jose, all in Spanish. And for anybody who enjoyed Flacos' vegan, delicious Mexican food out there, every single focus group, we serve them Flacos. So these are all Spanish groups. 2 of the focus groups that we had, the parents had kids that were vegan. They had no idea how to feed them. So even though these people were below poverty level, they still had kids that were vegan. We still had people who were doing the surveying with us when we went out to 200 locations who were saying, you know what, even if I wanted to be vegetarian, we don't have these options in my community. We don't have these at our grocery store. So we're going to be putting our report on our focus groups hopefully in November. We're all volunteer. We all have full-time jobs, but we're hoping to put it out in November and really show what these communities are looking for and what they're asking for. But we know for a fact we need to do more in these communities to make sure that they have access for it. For us, for ethical reasons, and for them, for health reasons. We have a leaflet that we created called Ya Basta. For those of you who don't know Spanish, it means enough already. And it says Ya Basta to the fast food, Ya Basta to all these corporations who don't care about your health. And it talks about why to go vegan as well. The other thing that we do in terms of trying to talk about these issues is we talk about food justice issues on a more wide scale. So if you want to talk about cruelty to animals, why not talk about cruelty to the farm workers? We have farm workers who are dying in the fields in the state of California because they don't have protection from the heat. This has allowed us an entrance to talk about food justice issues to communities who are not used to hearing about veganism. We talk about chocolate, slavery in the chocolate industry. We have Stanford University constantly. I'm giving 3 talks there in the next 2 weeks. The door is open for us to come and talk about these issues because we're talking about food justice. Veganism, for us, it's about oppression and exploitation being wrong if it's human or non-human animals. And that is opening the door. There's no way that we're contradicting anything. We aren't afraid of the word vegan. Vegan is everything about what we're talking about. Exploitation and oppression is wrong to any living being. The last thing that we feel is very important, and I'm just going to sum up with this, is the integrity and honesty that we as activists use in our own outreach. What happens to animals is bad enough, and factory farms and slaughterhouses in any way and shape these animals are raised. If we try to pretend that somehow if it's a smaller farm, they're treated a little bit better, we're doing a disservice to the animals. We need to be upfront and honest with people. Doesn't mean we have to badger them, and I mean, I love badgers, so I mean that in a good way. But we don't have to be, we don't have to, we have to be fair to them and just be honest, because why be anything other than honest about all of these issues? We don't need to be dishonest about our dietary needs. We do a disservice to veganism if we act as if that as long as you go vegan, you're going to be healthy. For those of us who've been doing this a long time, we know that you have to do more than just eat vegan to be healthy. Let's be honest about it. We want people to stay vegan and be vegan for the long term. Let's be honest with them about everything. Thanks.
Yeah,
Susianto.
yeah, thank you for the times. Hello, everybody. I'm Susianto. I'm a president of the Vegan Society of Indonesia and also Vegan Society of Indonesia. Not working, right?
No, this is just for the company. The microphone is not working. There's no microphone.
So? Oh, okay. So I don't need this one, right?
No. For the video.
Oh, I see. Okay. Yeah, I'm the head of the Indonesia Vegetarian Society and also president of the Vegan Society of Indonesia. And both of these Vegetarian Society actually set up in 1998. It's quite new, about 14 years ago. But in this short time, we have many things to do. And we have run many kind of events. Actually, in 2010, we have a very big World Vegetarian Congress in Jakarta. It's the capital of Indonesia. And we had about, like I said yesterday, about 8,000 participants. And the exhibitions is much bigger than this one. Yeah. And also, we have, how we call, several regional congress, including the last one for Asian Vegetarian Congress, and about 3 Southeast Asian Vegetarian Congress. But besides all this congress, actually, I'm thinking the best practice for Indonesia for this time is about educating people. And our main target is actually to reach the people and reach the public. And we have annual events celebrating the World Vegetarian Congress. And last week, I think, we have simultaneously about 15 events all over Indonesia in the same time. And we do it all in the, what they call a big shopping mall. It's not only like a building like this. But the other activity is very important. It's about the Meat-Free Monday program. So actually, IVS and VS doing a lot of collaboration with university and school, especially the high school. And we implemented how they call the vegan food in the school canteen, and we teach all the teachers and also the school students how to prepare the vegan food. And the school, they have a cooperation MOU with IVS and the VSI. They must prepare the vegan food for the one Monday every week. So this is a big program run by National, and actually we have about 80,000 members all over Indonesia. And also 57 branches. And all branches are run by volunteers. That's why we don't need to have more times or concentrations to raising funds, because all these branches are run by volunteers. So our target is, if we have a big event, like a national base or international regional one, then we have to have sponsors from the manufacturers, especially the food and pharmaceutical. I think this is all I can talk to and share to you about because of the limited time. Still? Okay. Yeah. Okay. So the other one is, we don't only support our Indonesia national, what they call Vegetarian Society, but we also helping a lot to our neighbor, like Malaysian Vegetarian Society, and also the Vegetarian Society of Singapore. And we also have another one called TVA, Thai Vegetarian Association. In next month, from November 23rd to 25th, we have another our regional congress called Southeast Asian Vegetarian Congress. And next year, in KL, Malaysia, so welcome you all to Malaysia, we maybe have about, how do you call, a combinations congress between our sixth Asian Vegetarian Congress and our 41st IVU World Veg Fest in KL. And we continue into the northern part of Malaysia. It's a quite beautiful island called Penang Islands. And this Penang Islands has about 50 vegetarian restaurants, only an island. Yeah. And then we'll continue maybe to the Thailand, because in Thailand we have a traditional celebration for vegetarianism and veganism. We celebrate in the 9 days. So it's called 9 days vegetarian celebration. Yeah. And this is annually. It's a combination with the traditional ones also, not only how they call modern approach. And like like you know, Indonesia has about 80% of Muslim, and we have many Muslims becoming vegetarians and vegan. Like John Davis showed you the pictures, we have a very good cooperation between all the religions, and also normally we have seminars, scientific talk, not only in the public area or public how do you call mall, but also in schools, even in the university. And also we have a very good cooperation with our governmental institutions. Like our last 2 years World Vegetarian Congress in Jakarta, we were supported by our Ministry of Tourism. We get a free big gala dinner for 500 participants, and all supported by the government. So we didn't spend any kind of any single cent of money. And also we got a lot of support also from the Ministry of Health. So if we have some things to do, normally we get a lot of support, not only from the private, industrial institutions, but also from our governmental institutions. And the last, I think is important, is we have a monthly gathering. So we go around all the vegetarian restaurants every month. We're doing like a scientific talk and also demo cooking. The food demo cooking, cooking demo, sorry. And also the important thing is this is a good way for people to sharing like us to share our opinions and how do you call our experience. And this is done not only in Jakarta. Okay, we have about 800 vegetarian restaurants all over Indonesia, in about 33 provinces. But 10% of the total vegetarians are in Jakarta. It's about 7 to 80 vegetarian restaurants. And this gathering is not only done in Jakarta itself, but we try to implement in every city, every capital of our provinces. So I think this is all I can share to you. Thank you very much.
Michael. Thanks. Can you tell me when I have 4 minutes and 1 minute? I just want to know if I'm halfway through. So, hi everyone. I'm Michael Weber from Farm Animal Rights Movement. We're a national nonprofit based out of the U.S., and we work to end the use of animals for food through grassroots activism and public education. And I was asked to give 3 best practices for you all. And so hopefully I'm going to give you 3 tools that you can take into your own communities, wherever that may be, so you can become even more effective with your activism. And if you saw me talk yesterday, this is like a 7-minute version of my 45 minutes yesterday, so it's pretty similar to what you saw yesterday. But basically, what we're doing at Farm right now is trying to find ways that we can take the kind of strategy and savvy that we usually see with campaigns against corporations, maybe, and bring them to our public outreach campaigns. So I want you to quickly think of, like, if there is a campaign against a fur store, right, we would not just protest at that store one time and walk away and hope they make some changes. Everyone agrees with that, right? We would not do that. That's not something we would do. So why is it that so often in our outreach, we are focused on this idea of planting the seed and walking away? You know, you hear that a lot, oh, we're going to plant the seed and hope it grows. Well, we don't do that against corporations. So, and what makes us think that's going to be so different with people? And in fact, people actually go through a very similar individual change process that society goes through. So there's 3 stages of social change: the alerting phase, the discussion phase, and the reform stage. And so a fur store, first you have the protest to alert them of the problem, discussion you go in and negotiate, and then reform you kind of make sure they're actually sticking with their promise to stop selling fur or whatever. Well, individuals, first they become alerted of the problem, and then they start a dialogue with themselves as to, how am I going to go through with this? Is this really a problem? And then finally they hopefully make reforms in themselves. And in many cases, they might go back on these reforms. They say, I'm going to go vegan, and then they might fall back. And so my 3 best practices are basically 1 for the alerting phase, 1 for the discussion phase, and 1 for the reform stage, but in individual people. And it's basically how we can take people through all 3 of these stages in one outreach program, one form of outreach. And so my best practice for the alerting phase is 4 minutes, all right. So my intro took half my talk. My best practice for the alerting phase is to give the smallest amount of information you need for why they should make that change. We don't need to give them every reason to go vegan. In fact, we should give them the fewest reasons possible, because the fewer reasons they give, the fewer of those reasons can be wrong to them. If you give someone 5 reasons to go vegan and they think that one of those reasons isn't right for them, they might discredit your entire message. So find the reason that works best for that audience. If you're speaking to young people, the animal cruelty message might be perfect. If you're at an Earth Day festival, the environmental message is probably perfect. If you're talking to someone with children, the health message might very well be perfect. But stick with the answer or the reason that's going to do the most, and then give them the rest of those reasons later once they've already started making those changes. Which leads me to the discussion phase. Best practice number 2 is effective communication, and basically the best way to dialogue with someone. The best way to dialogue with someone is to find people that want to hear your message, not people who are trying to get away from hearing your message. So in many of you laugh, but in a lot of our outreach we see this. People we're talking to are trying to get out of that tabling experience, trying to get out of talking to us. It doesn't have to be that way. I call it finding the bored people. So finding people who have nothing better to do than hear you talk to them about these issues is the best way to speak to people. Two ways that I found to do this. One of them is the pay-per-view program. With Farm, we have this 10 Billion Lives program. We pay people $1 each to watch a 4-minute video of animal cruelty. Out of nowhere, we found people that have nothing better to do than talk to us because they don't get the dollar till they're done with the whole interaction. A second way I do this is I talk to school children, not children, but high schoolers, college students, because anything is better than that teacher they're seeing every single day at the same time every day. So even if you're a half as good of a speaker as their teacher, you're still twice as interesting. And the third thing is get a commitment. This is the reform stage. Get a commitment and follow up. So we talk about planting the seed. Well, planting the seed is the alerting phase. Watering the seed is the discussion phase. We got to fertilize that seed too. That's getting a commitment and it's following up. So that's when we can start telling them all how easy veganism is. So as long as they say they're going to go vegan, even 1 day a week, that 1 day a week is your foot in the door to start talking about going vegan 7 days a week. Start talking about those health reasons, those environmental reasons, all these other elements of it. Just get that first step in there, that first thing that makes them interested. Make sure you're dialoguing with them effectively. Get that commitment so you can continue following up. Find out whether they actually made that change. If they're not making that change, fine-tune it a bit so that you can do it right. Hopefully you can take this into your communities and, become even more effective advocates. Thank you.
Yes, please. Yes. My name is Marla Winkler. I am from Brazil, and I am the president of the Brazilian Vegetarian Society there. We are a very new society. We created it in 2003 only, so next year will be 10 years. So we are a baby already, but we did a lot of things in this period. Well, the first thing we did was the International Vegetarian Congress. Next year, we created the society in 2003. In 2004, we organized a big conference there. So we have many different programs and events, everything in our group. And actually, we have about 30 groups around the country. Brazil is very big, like United States. And many groups are doing different things. For instance, some animal video shows every year, things like that. But I will talk to you today about one of our more successful programs, actually a campaign, which is a Meatless Monday campaign. We started it in 2009, 3 years ago, and we have a very good results in 3 years. This is means Monday without meat, discover new tastes or flavors. So it's a very soft approach, and this works better, I think. These are the pets, the main meat that the main animals that are eaten, but in a nice way. We present them in a nice way, and then for people, for the animals, for the planet. So everything is in our logo. Everything that we want to talk about is in the logo. Now we launched it in São Paulo, the first city. So São Paulo is the biggest city in Latin America, or South America at least, because Mexico is bigger, I think. It's about 14 million inhabitants. So it's a very, very big city. And we had the support of the city. So we launched it. And this was very good because everybody wants to copy São Paulo. So soon other cities started to support our campaign also, and others are in process. And we talk about the benefits for health, environment and social costs and impacts, global hunger, ethics, etc. We have the support already of many organizations, enterprise, politicians, artists. I'm saying that some of our best singers, for instance, Marisa Monte is considered, I think, our best singer, woman singer in Brazil. So it's very important. Gilberto Gil also is very, very, very known there, and many others. This is the Secretary of Education of São Paulo also, and he will be later on. I will talk again about him, because with him we started a very big program in São Paulo. And by the way, he became vegetarian. Actually vegan. And lost a lot of weight and all that. And the other secretary, the first one who was supporting us, the environment secretary, also became a vegetarian. So we have now 2 secretaries of the biggest city in Brazil vegetarian. So this makes a lot of difference, a lot. Here you can see the first secretary. He goes to all their meetings with our T-shirt. Yeah, so it's a very good, how do you say? Promoter, yeah. Many people are now supporting it. This one is a federal deputy for São Paulo also. This one is a municipal councillor, and he's very important also because now we started, because of him, of his support, we managed to reach a big program in São Paulo that I'll talk later. This is another deputy, and he just last week he registered a project of law saying that all the restaurants, snack bars, schools, cafeterias, and similar locations whose activities take place within public institutions of São Paulo must serve meatless Mondays meals. You see? So it's not only the city, it's all the state. state of São Paulo, the name is the same, São Paulo, the state of São Paulo is also. This campaign is very easy to get support. No, very, very few people is against it. Only some vegetarians, actually. But normally the people like very much and they are ready to support because it's only for them, it's, one day it's okay for me. But if you ask them, go vegan, they say, oh, I'm not ready, it's difficult, you know. But for one day they are ready. So this is a big window that opens, you see, because then they are open to it and they start to read our leaflets and they feel that they are in our side and not in the other side. It makes a lot of difference. And then they become to be educated about what means to be vegetarian or a meat eater. So I think it's a very, very good approach to, one only, to talk with those who are eating meat and are not thinking about it. We are not intended to talk with vegetarians, you see? So we have a lot of support. This is another very, very known singer there in Brazil. This is Moby. This is our national coordinator, Monica. She's very good. And, well, we have many supports. Oxfam is supporting us in Brazil, WWF, etc. Our biggest university, University of São Paulo, the health, the public health college is supporting the campaign. So we are in the universities also. And this is the biggest thing that I think it happened with the support. Well, it was a big process, but now we are in the 3,000 educational units of São Paulo city with a vegan meal every week. So it means 2 million meals every week, vegan meals. Enough? So, enough is enough. This is our material with very graphic things. Okay, thank you. Okay. Sebastian.
Give it to.
Okay, thank you very much. Yeah, we're quite impressive. Well, I got 7 minutes. Yeah, if you can tell me like after 4 minutes. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, well, 4 and 1 minute. Okay, well, I'll just give you a presentation about what's going to happen in Germany, or what has happened in Germany. It's actually quite impressive, like how it's going, like in the whole country and in all of Europe. I think we've really made some great progress, and it's really, yeah, accelerating even that. Well, considering our organization, I just want to make this very briefly. We are quite old. We have been founded 120 years ago, but the German Vegetarian Society, yes. And we had a makeover like in the year 2008. Our headquarters moved to Berlin now. We have about 8 to 10, well, actually now up to 12 employees, depending on how you count it. We have about 100 regional groups and contacts. Of course, we have a magazine that's sold quarterly and a discount card for members and various campaigns like media outreach, Veggie Day. I'll come to that in details. Well, concerning like how we develop, actually, it's like looking at the different things, you can see it's like this, for example, has been the media work in terms of like how often our organizations has been mentioned, and this is just like within the past 15 months how it actually has developed. So we had a new media coordinator. I can totally recommend that as a best practice. Really take care of the media because this is a really good multiplicator. Another is, of course, social media. We also have a social media manager, which really shows in the figures concerning our Facebook fans, our newsletter subscribers, our Twitter followers, and everything. So this really has improved within, like, by 300% within the last, I think that's last 12 months. Also, website visitors, I think, well, this is starting from December 2012, so that's, yeah, close to 2 years, has also tripled. So going quite well. And actually, yeah, that's a good best practice. I don't know if you know that Google Grants program. Google is actually giving, you know that you can run ads at Google, and usually you have to pay. It's quite costly, but actually for charities, Google is giving away about $40,000 a month. So you can apply, and then you get about, well, it starts off with $10,000 a month, and then you get it no, it's not limited. So you can, like, in terms of time, so it's not only for 1 month, but it keeps on going. And if you use the 10,000, you can apply for 40,000. So that's where we are up now at the moment. Which, by having the ads, we generate more than 1,000 additional visitors to our website each day. So actually 30,000 of what you see here are coming because of the Google ads. Yes, 4 minutes. Well, we outsourced our shop. Like, we used to do the shop ourselves. We joined together with an already existing vegan food shop, and yeah, this really helped a lot, of course. I think we had a 400% increase of the sales within 2 years by just outsourcing it. So we don't have to do the job ourselves anymore. Somebody else is taking care of that. But, you know, we are selling more. And I think now we are up to about 600 orders a month. So there are 600 people ordering our merchandising and everything that we have. And, of course, membership. Well, as I said, we are 120 years old. And, well, we were growing all the time, kind of like steadily. But as you can see, it was quite a very slow development. And then within the last couple of years, it really speeded up. Like within the last 12 months, we've grown by more than 50%. So we have about, between 200 and 300 new members each month. So about like 7 to 10 new members a day. And this is, of course, due to all what I've said before. The activities. And also the future scenarios, we calculated how we're going to grow in the future, so we continue to, of course, accelerate the speed even more. Financial development, of course, as well, we have doubled our income. And that's actually where we're getting the money from to do all our work. We are more professional. We have, of course, a lot of volunteers, but we have also paid staff. It's quite diverse, the money we're getting from. It's like from the European Union a little bit, from the Ministry of Environment, some money. There's foundations that funding us, some legacies, but doesn't really make much of, that's 2 years, so it's like 10, 12,000 a year, so that's not a lot. We increased the membership, of course we have more members, new people subscribing to the newsletters, some more donations, the shop, what I said, at the V-label, and we also helped other organizations within Europe by, I think it was a total of more than 300,000 that we raised in terms of the European Union to provide to other organizations to help them grow. So this is also quite good. In terms of the projects, that's the main topic of the talk. Well, I can totally just agree with what Marley was saying about the Meat Free Monday campaign. Well, we just called it differently. We called it Donnerstag ist Veggie Tag, so it's focusing on the Thursday. We copied that from the Belgium, but in terms of what you were saying, I can totally agree. It just helps you to get in contact with organizations and institutions that you haven't, that you're not usually contacting. Well, I have a nice video, but maybe if you have time, we can do that. I'll do that. Well, that's another project that's funded by the ministry. We are talking to large caterers. We're doing a lot of cooking classes. We're working with the United Nations now. We've trained Mercedes-Benz and different big companies, universities. Actually, University of Berlin now introduced the vegan options for all its 100,000 students every day, so they can choose a vegan option. Well, we came up with a trade show that we invented again. We don't do it ourselves. We found an agency doing it for us, and we have about, here it says 20,000 visitors. Well, we have 2 trade shows now per year, so actually we're reaching more than 30,000 visitors a year. Well, we send out food samples to journalists. Oh, that's okay. Well, we do lobbying. I'm being really brief now. Well, we developed a B12 toothpaste. You might have heard of that. I was giving a talk on that. It's just another idea where you think, don't do it yourself. Just try somebody else to cover the cost and everything, and just try to focus on your competences. Materials, well, I have a lot. This is the Veggie Times. It's actually a nice magazine because it's It's actually kind of like a brochure, but people really like it because it looks more like a newspaper, and it's really cheap to produce. It's much cheaper than if you print like other leaflets because it's printing costs. Well, we have a Veggie guide to Berlin. That's for the caterers, the magazine. It actually has already been, well, we got it from the Belgium again, but it has already been translated in several other languages, so feel free to do it as well. Yes, Hnat. Last point, I think that's the last point. Yeah, we are starting a medical conference for medical doctors, and yeah, conclusions, well, professionalize, focus on growth in terms of fundraising, media, online, and newsletters. Outsource, don't do it yourself. Try others to find it. Try out various things and let go if they don't work. So if there's a program that doesn't really work, just quit. Don't do it anymore. If it's like we did the fair and we had several thousand people joining, so if we hadn't had that, we wouldn't have done it anymore. Target the mainstream, like with the Veggie Day thing, and yeah, in many cases, KISS, like keep it short and simple, which I intended to do this talk.
Now, for our last speaker, Jogerson, I apologize we didn't include his position statement. So, Jogerson, I'm going to give you 8 minutes, 1 extra minute. So you could use that extra minute to introduce yourself too, please. I apologize for not having you write up.
In the first question, does everybody like Marla? Yes, so do I. He helped me because I had some mistake in English.
You have to...
Não, because... porque eles vão gravar lá.
Mas você que tem que segurar.
Ah, é?
Segura aí.
Ok.
Quer que eu segure? Quer que eu segure?
Eu seguro porque você fala direto lá. Não vai ficar gravado lá?
Vai.
Você vai traduzir?
Ah, é?
Yes.
Okay. He wants me to translate. Ok. Não, é você que tem que segurar. Você que tem que segurar.
Eu trabalho na Universidade de Campina Grande.
University of Campina Grande. It's in the north part of Brazil.
E fiquei vegano desde essa data.
He went vegan in that conference in 2004 in Florianópolis.
Campina Grande is a nordeste do Brasil.
It is in the northeast of Brazil.
São Paulo is here. 400 mil habitantes. É centro educacional.
It's an educational center, okay? People is understanding. Yeah.
Okay. 3 veg restaurant, 1 market agroecological.
Agroecological market.
Esse trabalho foi convite de 2 estudantes.
This work was an invitation from 2 students.
É porque da universidade eu não trabalho com esse tema.
Because he is a teacher in this university, but he doesn't work with this issue.
Essa escola tem 2.000 estudantes.
2,000 students in school.
Dividido em 3 períodos.
And 3 periods.
Manhã, tarde
in the morning, afternoon and night.
E esse trabalho só com os adultos, que é a turma da noite.
And he is working only with the adults at night.
O que pensam os estudantes que não são veganos, são sobre vegetarianismo?
And they were asking the students who are not vegetarian what they think about vegetarianism.
My name is 2 students. Introduzimos 2 questões para reflexão.
They asked 2 questions.
Primeiramente, as pessoas procuravam alimento. E atualmente, o alimento caminha muitos quilômetros até cada um de nós. Há uma provocação, será essa a ideia, a solução? A globalização permitiu o uso de...
Globalization permits the use of
alimentos de diferentes...
different foods from different parts of the world.
Planeta.
Not local food anymore.
E essa viagem contínua
And this continuous travel.
tem mudado a qualidade. E o tema de várias palestras aqui.
Change the quality of food.
E essa mudança tem provocado
And this
doenças.
changing provokes some illness.
Houve uma primeira palestra.
They give first of all they give a talk for the students.
E mais ou menos
For
113
113 students were interviewed. They built a pyramid,
Isso.
food pyramid.
Totally different de vegan and vegetarian. Alguns deles responderam questões entre eles.
In between them.
E depois foi feita uma oficina,
Then they
uma
did a
prática.
workshop about food, vegetarian lifestyle.
Sobre os estudantes, a maioria eram rapazes,
Most of them were boys,
e a idade média,
and from 16 years to 40 years.
porque é adulto e à noite,
Because at
What I
night
did-
many adults study.
e eles trabalham durante o dia.
They work during the day.
O workshop foi bastante, eu diria assim, aceitável, né?
They like very much the workshop.
Com
Students.
yes. Total aceitação.
It was very well accepted.
Eles prepararam também, desenharam
They prepared foods like that one.
e algumas questões que
And these are the questions that arose from this meeting.
é muito comum no nosso meio, né, para quem está entrando.
1 minute. Mais um minuto.
Por exemplo, the first question, as pessoas vegetarianas são fortes?
Yes, the first question was if the vegetarians are strong people.
Muito caro
It's very expensive to
Ter a
be a
vida.
vegetarian.
e assim algumas
Or
outras
if
questões.
it is a religion, this is a common question for those who doesn't know what is that.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Marla.
Oh,
And I invite you for to
okay. I hope everybody could hear. We had such great panelists. We're lucky. I think I've gotten lots of great ideas to take home with from every one of you, and I hope you guys have too. The way I like to organize, I'd like to end on time because of other commitments that many of you have. So this is the way I propose using the remaining 20 minutes. Let's not take a break. Of course, feel free to head out, use the bathroom, come back in. I have I'm going to do a quick summary, and then I have 3 questions. I'm going to pick out one so each panelist will have a chance to take 1 minute to give your response, and we'll be left with 5-7 minutes for any questions from the floor. And then let's break, and then informally people can talk. One thing I like about panel discussions, especially when you have great people like this, is there's a lot of commonality yet variability. One thing that I found common amongst all the panelists was education, education, education. That's key. You got to tell people the story. You got to educate people. And a lot of the panelists focused on the youth, which, of course, is the most important group to educate. Another common trend was more or less access to online media, some more than others, the web, social media, and so forth. There was some variability, but everybody had some connection to online dissemination of information. Food is something that unifies all of us. We outreach with food, and one thing I'll quickly throw in is whenever you're working with vegetarian activism, make sure, because you have to be a terrible cook to make vegan food taste awful. Never do that. Have no food rather than awful food, and none of you would do that. So food, excellent food, I'm sure for all of the panelists was a commonality. Try it. There's a lot of misperceptions. Vegan food, doesn't taste good. Not when these guys present their programs. So try it. Break misperceptions. Volunteerism to different extents. Some of the groups are funded by government, for example. But I bet even those groups take a lot of volunteer work. So volunteerism is common. Buy-in and sharing perspective. Michael had a great example of that, for example. So get groups to buy in, get students, get organizations to say, yeah, I buy into this, and try to see it from their perspective. So some buy-in was something that was common. One thing that I found very nice about every one of the panelists is they all were smiling and talking about good things. Now, you could take a perspective, there's billions of animals killed, and you could take a horribly aggressive status and say, this is terrible, this is bad. Will you make differences? Maybe. But I think by being happy, at least this panel, everybody here I think was happy and showed that, look at all the positives. So there was a happiness, not an aggression. And the last commonality I wanted to point out is making it easy. Every one of these panelists looked to ways to get the message easily assimilable and usable. Some of the variability was, how do you educate? Do you educate the public? Do you educate government officials? Do you educate children, retirees? Which ones do you educate? How much is online? Do you use social media? Do you not? Funding. There was a wide variety of funding. A lot of the groups rely on donations or membership, and that was another difference. Some groups have membership, some don't. Most, I think, do have membership. Another thing that varied is other relations with other sister groups. So some organizations reached out, Susianto, for example, with other organizations and said, let's work together and build a larger common whole. And others said, there's just so much to do, let's kind of work together and be a resource for others. Both valid perspectives. Integrating with existing institutions, two groups talked about, at least two talked about Meatless Mondays, which is an international program, started at my alma mater, Johns Hopkins, actually, so I'm proud of Hopkins for that. So there was some integration, which was really nice. So that's something that can be done. Media and media-savvy technologies. So how do you get the media on your side? How do you talk to them? How do you get them to follow your stories to get the word out? With some variability. What do you do to hook the people with? And in all cases it was food, but what other things? Compassion, logic, health, environment. What are the hooks? Some organizations have subsidiary groups, like Marlies and Susiantos have sister groups in their countries that help with the message. There was also variability in benefits. If you join the membership organizations, what benefits do you get? Do you get a discount program? I think one or two of you had mentioned that, which was quite useful. And how do you get to the audiences? Several of them talked about that. That was some of the variability. There were so many good practices, and I actually highlighted one or two from each person, but I'm not going to remind you of them because we're shy on time. But what I'd like to do is, well, first of all, I want a round of applause for the panel. And then what I'd like to do is I'd like to ask each of the panelists to restrain yourself to 1 minute. I wanted to ask a couple leading questions, if I can find them. Where are my questions? Okay, here they are. Okay, the first question is, when we reach out to our communities, and by the way, do each of you so far feel you've gotten something that you can take back and tell others and reach out and gain? Have we all gained from the wisdom of all these 9 panelists? Yes. Wonderful. So one thing is, I think most in this room are probably, if not vegan or vegetarian, sympathetic. I would think you probably wouldn't be here if you're not sympathetic to the message. What do we as activists do when we reach the community? Is it all or nothing? Give up your meat and dairy, be a vegan, or is there a gradual approach? So I wanted Marley, Jasmine, and Sebastian each to take a minute and tell me, what is your view in your outreach? Is it all or nothing? So Marley? Yes, thank you, Marley.
I think it all depends of the audience, of the people you are talking. Someone mentioned that before. Depends of the people you are talking, and depends. Then you choose the issue that will show to them. So it all depends. If the people is, for instance, a young people, he is interested in something. Old people in another thing. So you have to have, but we have an answer for, we have something to present to everybody. So we can choose. very easily.
Jasmine? All or nothing?
It's not that simple. We're trying to be very inclusive. For example, on Facebook, we do encourage people to ask questions, to not be afraid to discuss any topics that they're not certain about. So we are trying to be very inclusive and attract the vegan curious, we call them, because we recognize that everyone is on a journey and there are different stages in that journey. Most people go from meat eating to vegetarianism and then veganism. But as a society, the vegan society, we cannot be promoting reduction of meat. That's not in our purpose, in our public benefit. We cannot be promoting vegetarianism. But we still need to be inclusive and make people feel welcome, not afraid to ask any questions, etc. Can I say one brief thing that has nothing to do with it? I didn't say that, but this Making the Connection is going to be shown on national TV in Latvia on World Vegan Day. And that's just great, because where else has this been shown on national TV? I think it's going to be dubbed in Latvian, so that's great.
Wonderful. And Sebastian, please, all or nothing.
Yes. Well, actually, in my regular presentation, I actually have that shortly. I can just, what I'm trying to say here is, I've come up with that figure. You know, that's like the climate gas emissions in a meat-eating diet, a vegetarian diet, and a vegan diet. So this, and this. And I think if you count the amount of dead animals, if that's 100% for the meat eaters, it might be half for the vegetarians. And of course, even at the vegan diet, there's still animals being harmed as long as you live. But so you always have that pattern. So if you're thinking of that pattern here, you remember these. So that's the vegan one, vegetarian, and the omnivore one. So now if you multiply that by the number of people that are for example, in the States, so you have 95% of omnivores, 5% maybe of vegetarians and vegans. So this is actually like the amount of gray or of black color here. That's the harm done to the world, or the numbers of animals being killed. So these are the vegans, and these are the vegetarians, and these are the meat eaters. So if you were now to be told to get rid of the black matter here, what would you do? Would you start discussing with vegans why they should be more vegan and trying to get that tiny bit here? Or would you focus on the vegetarians? Well, you should go all the way vegan. Or would you think, okay, maybe we are trying to tackle here? So I think that's quite clear. So that's my answer then. So instead of that's our focus, really, to try to make the people at least, even if only tiny percent of them go vegetarian, but the rest of them switch, I think this really helps a lot. So this is, for example, like the Veggie Day thing. And I know actually a lot of people who started out with the Veggie Day, and then they thought, well, okay, I understand that it makes sense for 1 day a week, but Sebastian, how about 7? Isn't it even better to have a Veggie Day 7 days a week? It's like, yeah, I think you're getting the point. But if they actually come up with that idea, then it's way more likely that they do it. Yeah.
The next question I want to address to Michael and Lauren, and the next question is some, certainly not all, but some vegan activists are focused on ethics and on animal cruelty. So, and there's different schools of thought. I want to ask you two in particular, is there a role of showing graphic animal rights footage, to show slaughterhouse footage, for example? Is there a role, and what role would that play? So Michael first, and then Lauren.
Yeah, thanks. I think if you're dealing with a blank slate, someone you have no reason to believe is more receptive to the animal, earth, or health message, we should go with the animal message. And that's because, if you know that there are already environmentalists or something, fine, go with that message. But if it's a blank slate, the animal message is the most intuitive. When you say animals are dying for food, not eating them means they're not dying as much. It's way more direct than it is with global warming. You have to kind of make multiple connections.
How graphic?
And then that's where I was going. So once you accept that with most people, especially youth, we should be going with the animal message, the ethic message, it should be pretty graphic, at least briefly. With our pay-per-view program, we've seen immense success. We've shown graphic footage to over 40,000 people, this video, in person in the last year and some change. And over 80% of those people have pledged to eat fewer animal products. So that's 40,000 people, 80% of them, that's 32,000 out of 40,000, watched the graphic footage for just 4 minutes and said, yeah, I'm going to eat fewer animals. And I would be very doubtful that less graphic footage would have gotten us at 80%. I would be very doubtful that a health or environmental message would have gotten us at 80%. I think when you're dealing with blank slate young people that show in that graphic footage is absolutely that simple message I talked about earlier. Yeah.
Thank you. Lauren, graphic or not?
Yeah, again, we're an ethics space for farm workers, for chocolate slavery, for everything, including the animals. I believe that graphic footage is important, and I do think it should be shown, but my concern is that we lose focus to not acknowledge that these animals are sentient beings, and we show too much of animals in tortured situations instead of showing them as individual sentient beings, showing how they are and how they should be in life. On our website, we try and do it gradually by showing animals in a as natural as they can be situation at a sanctuary, and then slowly get to the more graphic images, because I think people are used to thinking of animals as commodities, and when we show them only in that situation, that we're still making that disconnect. That we need to have more time reminding people about, that fish are intelligent and the things that chickens and roosters do, and all these things about the animals themselves, and so we don't just learn about these animals in conditions in which they're raised and killed for food. So that's how people know they're companion animals and other animals. Why not let them know about animals that are raised and killed for food in the same way?
Can I briefly say in agreement with her, actually? Just real briefly. I agree, Lauren, and we actually changed our video. We used to use a 4-minute video that was graphic for 4 straight minutes, and now we use one that the first 45 seconds talks just about that. It says, we all love dogs and cats, and here's how great pigs and chickens and cows are, shows them on sanctuaries, and our walkaway rate went from 10% to 2.5%. So basically a 75% drop in walkaways when we added 45 seconds of animals in sanctuaries before showing the graphic stuff. So.
Okay. Actually, 2 more questions so we can portion it appropriately. And we'll come back to ethics as the last question. A lot of times in our activism, we rely on local experts. So we'll rely on the local medical community or an environmentalist, and sometimes we have to educate them. So my question to Susianto and Jogerson is, how do you, with your outreach, you're working with people who may not have a full education about the vegan message. How do you work with them if they have a different message? They'll say, yes, I advocate more fruits and vegetables, but being vegetarian or vegan is too much. So how do you, when your local quote-unquote expert goes off topic, what do you do? So, Susianto.
Yeah, especially if we talk to the expert or the scientists. My key point is about every aspect. If we want to promote and approach the vegetarianism, especially the veganism, the key point always we have to provide. Yeah, we should always have to provide what we call scientific data. Yeah. So I think I convinced a lot of medical doctors and also nutritionists, and also even including my professor in the university. Half of our lecturers in the Department of Nutrition become vegetarian now. Yeah, by the scientific data. Yeah.
Okay, great. And Jogerson, through Marley, how do you address experts who may not share all your values?
Nós somos o que os nossos pais comemos.
He said, we are what our parents eat.
E na classe estudantil,
in the student class,
algumas informações sobre vegetarianismo,
some information about vegetarianism,
termina despertando uma mudança do estilo de vida. Descobrindo. Discovery.
Como é que é despertar?
Discovery, não? Descobrir.
Find out some,
yes,
okay, estilo de vida.
Vegetarianismo.
Find out the vegetarianism.
E isso traz mudanças.
And this brings changes
em nossas vidas.
In our lives.
Certamente aconteceu com algum de nós.
Certainly it happened with some of us.
Se os nossos pais não eram veganos ou vegetarianos.
If our parents were not vegans or vegetarians.
The last question, which goes to Freya and Priscilla, comes back to ethics. So oftentimes, many people, especially with vegans, less so with perhaps vegetarians, but a lot of vegetarians certainly as well, are very focused on ethics. And sometimes in our activism, we might run against a brick wall, especially when it comes to religion, because a lot of people take their ethics from religion. And so I want you two to please address, do you use ethics in your activism? And if so, how do you do it in a sensitive fashion? How do you, when you're talking to somebody and then they say, thanks, I appreciate that, but according to the whatever text, Animals are here for us to do what we want. Do you engage them or do you back off? So how do you address ethics? Is it appropriate in your activism, and how do you do it?
You know, this is the toughest question. I mean, vegan dietary adherence is an ethic. You know, it's about ethics. It's an ethical diet. When I speak to Muslims in Africa, you know, there's that awful day, some years is the first week of January, where the oldest male teaches the oldest son how to kill that poor goat or sheep. And I try not to travel there when it's going on, because these animals are upside down on cars and trucks all over Senegal or Gambia. They're on the streets. It is mortifying. You know, am I going to talk somebody out of that? That's their religion. I don't know how to, you know, talk somebody out of their religion. I don't have a religion, so, you know, I think people ought to be talked out of religions when it comes to, seriously, when it comes to a mandate on how you treat another human being, or whether you advocate violence, which is what slaughter is, it's violence. I can talk about violence and talk about ethics without showing violence in footage. I think it's pornography. You don't have to see pornography to know how vile it is and how dehumanizing it is. So I can talk about ethics, but I don't think I can talk people out of a religion.
And finally, Freya, please.
Of course, for many people, being vegan or approaching it is a very, it's a strongly ethical stance that they take, and a spiritual matter. But we are not a religious sect of any kind. And so what is common in many religions is the teaching of compassion. And that's what we want to teach people. And for people who are strongly in their own religion, if we can help them find those words of compassion from the teachings of their religion, that's very helpful.
Well, with that, I think I've fulfilled my contract. It's exactly 6:30. So, but I lied because I said it'd be open to questions. So allow that lie, a little bit of ethical trespass here. But instead, I'd like us to break. I'd like anybody who'd like to address some additional questions to please come forward, and let's do that informally. And I thank you for coming, and I hope everybody got a lot out of this session. Thank you. Thank you very much.
And thank you to Dilip for organizing this and convening this panel. Thank you.
Thanks. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.